of a safe space to cry? How often are y'all provided that space to be able to do that?
Level up one tight, level up two tight, level up tray tight, level up with me, level up one tight, level up two tight, level up tray tight, level up with me.
Welcome back to another edition of Why Think Tank. Yes, I'm super excited to be back in the Think Tank, and we got some new faces. We definitely want to make sure this conversation is had because, I believe it's gonna slap. No pun intended. I know you've seen the flyers already, so just roll with it. But we definitely need to have this conversation, especially in this time, this day and time. And so before we get into the conversation, you know how we always do. We let you know that the Think Tank is always about having those uncomfortable conversations in comfortable places. So before we do that, we're gonna have our special guests introduce themselves, and then after that, we'll jump right on into it, all right?
What's up, y'all? I'm Markel Crawford, young adult pastor at Standard Setters Ministries here in Memphis, Tennessee. Excited to be here with these young, beautiful faces. Today we're gonna have this good conversation, and I'm ready.
What's up, everybody? Your co-host is here, Nadia Gibbons, back on the blue couch with my brothers. Very, very excited to talk about this, and I know I'm the only feminine energy here, but we're gonna talk about it anyway. We're gonna get there.
Floyd Trey Lee, the young adult pastor here at Brown Baptist, another co-host, other Think Tank. So yeah, I'm excited as well, and happy to have you here, Markel.
Appreciate
and my sister Nadia as always. And then here we go, you got my brother from Chicago, not from 6th and 3rd. He's definitely here with us today. So yeah, man.
What's good, everybody? Charles DeLos III. I'm the college pastor here at Brown Baptist Church, and I'm so glad to be on this wonderful panel that's about to slap.
So yes, you know, as you can tell, the title is Black Men Deserve to Cry Too, and it's a reason why we named it that. We just talked about Kanye West last month, and it's ironic the Oscars took place and we seen what happened to Will Smith. And no, we're not about to talk about Will Smith. What we're about to talk about is when you see a person of his character do something out of his character, what happens? Or when you see a man of color crying, why do we always relate it to something negative? Why can't it be that it's tears of joy? Maybe that's his way of expressing himself. I do believe that those conversations need to be had, and I did bring tissue in case my brothers do decide to cry today, okay? With that being said, other than that, another thing about the Will Smith incident, I do believe that private development is very helpful, and it keeps you away from having those public destructions. And so we're not here to judge Will Smith. We're not, like I said, we're not even going to talk about Will Smith. We're just going to talk about how do we deal with those traumas? How do we go about when it's come to crying? How do we express it without worrying? And having Nadia here is a good thing because she's going to direct it for us. She's going to ask the question. She is the therapist, but not only that, being that she's a woman, she can speak towards it, how she feels when she sees a man of color crying or see someone, breaking down. How does a woman respond to that? But then we also have our brothers here to speak on it as well. So we're gonna get into this conversation. I believe it's gonna be helpful because I do believe that black men should be able to feel their emotions, but not only feel their emotions, learn how to respond to them in the most wisest ways, in the most healthiest ways. So Nadia, you take us from there.
Oh man, Trey, I cannot believe you put this on me. But like you said, it's going to be a really good conversation. So, of course, we're not going to talk about Will Smith, but I think one thing to just kind of kick it off, everybody's calling this the Will Smith incident, but there was another person involved, right? And we saw Will Smith cry, but we didn't see Chris Rock cry.
Yeah.
I wonder what would have been the reaction had we seen Chris Rock cried at the response of being hit on national television. And that question made me think, in the situation where someone's being attacked, how often do you see men of color cry when they're on the attack or when they have been attacked or when honestly the moment is available or even acceptable for them to cry? So to you guys, has there ever been a moment where you felt like it was acceptable for you to cry and you still didn't, and why not?
Oh, that's good.
I jump in it real quick. The reason why is because I can remember it vividly. It was at my grandmother's funeral, and I remember that I had to speak at her funeral. And so for me, I wanted to cry so bad at the funeral because first I already was heavy because I had so much going on playing in my mind, and I've never dealt with death in the correct manner. So basically, my wife was pregnant with my son, and she was supposed to actually have my son that same weekend of the funeral. So I'm trying to be in two places at one time. So I'm trying to be strong for my wife while I'm absent, but be strong for my family while I'm present. And so while sitting in the pulpit, I found ways where I was like, man, you can just let it out. Everybody else is crying, but in my mind it was like, no, you got to be strong. You got to show them that you can carry this burden, because if you're going to speak to them, if you're going to do the words of encouragement, the words of comfort, then if it's coming from you, then you got to at least present comfort on your face. But in the reality was that I was breaking down inside. And I can remember getting into the car with my mom and my sister, because my dad, it was his mother, so he was actually riding in the family car. And I remember just as we were about to pull off from the church, it just hit me, and I just broke down and started crying. But nobody else knows that I cried that day but self my mom and my sister, because they were just like, let it out, let it out. And I think I held it, but I think I was crying more because I didn't know if I was being strong for myself or was I trying to be strong for everybody else. And I've had to carry that weight still to this day as it comes around, because in that moment, if I would have handled those emotions in the proper manner, if I would have handled them in the most healthy manner, I probably wouldn't have allowed it to still linger and bother me so much to this day.
Wow.
That's good.
You brought the tissues out for real. All right.
I can go next on that one. This was actually very recent. So the previous church I was serving at, Chicago City Life Center Church, shout out to them, Pastor Moody. It was a Sunday morning where he called me up. So I didn't know he was going to do this. He called me up, and so I'm up there. I'm like, what are you about to do? You know, and he just starts saying, I want everybody. It was a part of his sermon. He said, I want everybody to. He usually calls me up just for little various illustrations or something like that. So I'm like, it's just another illustration. And he said, I want everybody to really pray for this young man.
Wow.
And he said, you don't understand what he's going through. And like, I just like cried. It was just like, man, I released, because I was sitting. It was crazy because that Sunday morning, I just had this feeling. I was overwhelmed with just the feeling of the spirit, and I was ready. I was leading worship and just, was ready for service. And I just had a different feeling that day. Don't know why. And when he called me up, and when he said that, I was just like, man, like I released, and I cried, like I cried. And that, like, it was in front of a lot of people at the church. It was online and everything like that. And just in my mind, it was that I felt seen in the right way. And I felt like for a time, just doing all that I did at the church, at times you can feel like people don't see you, right? They don't see what you struggle with. They don't see the temptations that you deal with and you try to move past. They don't see the you know what I'm saying? So, and at the same time, they want you to be a certain way. And you're trying to attain this lifestyle while still being productive in the ministry. But the devil and the enemy is trying to pull you back so hard. And I just felt like so much pressure. And when he said that, it just like, man, it just left. And I just cried, man. And that's, I joke about it, but people be like, I don't really cry. And I don't say that in a manner way. I ain't no cry. It's just that I feel like the times where I'm supposed to cry, I don't know why. Like, I don't know what's wrong with my tear ducts. I don't know. But I want to cry. I really do. I had those, I really do want to
feel the urge. Like,
but they don't come out. I'm so serious. It ain't about me being old manny man or nothing like that. But in that moment, unexpectedly, I was able to release. And I thank Pastor Moody for that. Shout out to you. You already know, man. But even in that time, like, the release in that, it just felt like, I don't know how to describe it, just felt like I was able to exhale. And them tears were just coming, my face was all red. It was just,
like Will Smith.
That's the last time I cried. It was a few months last year sometime, but But in that moment, the overwhelming feeling, you don't know when you're about to cry in certain situations. You just, when things happen, you don't know how you're going to react. And that was a positive thing. I'm glad that was a positive cry, tears of joy and release. But still, it was, it was not common for me.
That's good. I actually thought about a time, it was maybe 2 weeks ago at my young adult service. And so I started by everybody came in and I just played like some worship music. I told everybody, okay, let's just close our eyes and just breathe. And so something that I do, like when I do stuff like this, or even before I preach or something like that, I won't eat. Like I just fast that day. And so that whole day I ain't eating over like 2 sausage McMuffins or something in the morning, you know what I'm saying? But the rest of the day I didn't eat. And so, like I said, I told everybody to put the worship music on and all that. And then it's like a majority, like probably like 3 or 4 women, and then like me and my cousin. And so I'm playing the music and I just got full, like, man, I was just full. And I wanted to cry, but I didn't. And so then after the service, everybody left. Me and my cousin was standing there like putting the chairs back, and it just came over me. I let it out. But like, I think that's my safe place though. Like in church, like I cry whenever I'm listening to worship music. I cry, I do all of it. Like it's, man, God is my safe place, He's my haven, And so one thing that you said was like being in front of people. And one thing I had to do, like for me, I had to come to the point where pride didn't like negate my release, so to say. Like I got to the point where I stopped caring about what people think about me. So, man, my pastor messed with me every Sunday. Man, we don't need to do this because my kid gonna go to crying and this and that. So that's something that I do, man. I cry all the time. So
that's what's up.
But I did have that moment where I was kind of stopping. So.
You guys said some really interesting things, and I want to touch on what Trey said first about how he was in a position where he had to be strong. And of course, I'm a female, but I can only imagine what it's like for you guys, not only to be men, but to be men in leadership, and what it's like to be in that position of I have to be strong, or I have an obligation, to people, and I have to be able to do this. And like, I'm going to call you Charles, said, I'm in all of these different places at all these different times and these different, responsibilities. But Trey said when he got in a comfortable place, he was able to cry. And Markel said, well, I cry with the Lord all the time. But you said there was a moment where it was uncommon, but it happened anyway. And I'm hearing a similar theme of when I feel safe, I do cry. How often does that happen for y'all? Like, is there a safe space? The question is, the statement is, black men deserve to cry too. Well, y'all deserve a safe space to cry. How often are y'all provided that space to be able to do that?
As sad as it sounds, it's not that many safe spaces for men of color. Why? Because sometimes it seems as if nobody around you can understand, because it's like, man up. That's the thing that I was told as a young boy, like, boys don't cry. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a movie out there titled Boys Don't Cry, you know what I'm saying? Not only that, it's just the ideal, if you cry then that means you're weak. And I found myself, even with my son, crying about something. Yeah, he was whining. I was like, stop crying, man up. And I started saying the same thing to him. So what I started to see is that I'm creating that same lane that people created for me, where it's like, it's not safe to release. And so the heaviness of it is like, where can I go? Yeah. But see, this is the other side of it, is like, who can I trust? Yeah. So it's not just safe spaces, but it's safe people. Like what are not the safe places, but who are the safe people? Who can I trust with my deepest, darkest thoughts? Because a lot of people are quick to say, ooh, I got something on them. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you do something that may hurt them or bother them, it's quickly used against you. Yeah. So it's like not so much about finding a safe space or a safe place, but it's really about who are my safe people that I can go to. And I do thank God that He's blessed me with a wife that's willing to listen. But the other part of that is that I always feel as a man, how much can I give her? Because I don't want her to carry the weight that I'm already feeling, because all you brothers on this couch are pastors and preachers and teachers. It's a weight in this thing that's spiritual that nobody can understand unless they're walking it out. Like it's heavier than just saying, oh, this is how I feel. Like sometimes my wife will look at me and say, Floyd, why you look so exhausted? Why you look tired? Like matter of fact, she'll be like, the tears, they're just coming down. Why are you crying? And I'll be like, I can't explain it to you. And the reason why I can't explain it is because there's a heaviness there that's unexplainable. And so sometimes I don't want to put that heaviness on her, because if I can't explain it to her, then she won't be able to understand how to carry it herself. So I think it's more for me, not so much of a safe place, but the safe people that I can trust with that information that's carrying me or causing me to feel burdened.
Man, I just want to jump on a couple things you said. The first thing is, like you said, about safe people. And so for me, what I did is I got 2 friends, like my cousin I was telling y'all about, and I got a friend that lives in Dallas. And whenever I want to get something off my chest, I just call them. You know, they always available, always ready. And if they don't answer, you know, they'll call me back. But I got 2 people that I just go to and I just pour all that on. And then 2, I think the reason why we feel that we can't trust women to their depth is because oftentimes in our community, what we've done is we've been emotional without solution. So like something that I used to do when I was in a relationship, I would cry and get mad about stuff, but I never came up with a solution. And so I think until we get to the point where we like, okay, we man up and we emotional, but then okay, after I cry, okay, what's the solution? What's gonna get handled after this? I think then we'll be able to gain that trust back, you know, from our women. So that's my take on it.
That was good.
No, I mean, y'all are saying they're hitting everything. I mean, really, I mean, it's blessing me right now in just this spot, because the heaviness and the emotion is real. I think we have to first acknowledge that, you know, at that point, you know, I started preaching at 15. And so at 15 to 20, I didn't really feel too much weight of ministry, right? I'm still maturing in the mind. I'm in high school. I got a lot of things going on where I'm playing football, I'm running track, got friends in school and those things like that. I get to college, doing things, still preaching and in school and playing the sport. So, you know, I was just in emotion, but the heaviness didn't really hit me until really the heaviness of ministry, the heaviness and weight of ministry didn't hit me until about last year. Understanding, I guess, the spiritual aspect of it in terms of how much it really, really is a burden on your back because of what you do, is that we're targets already. So because we're targets, there is things coming at us that we don't even realize and that we don't even see, because we're saying that we're going to stand and we're going to proclaim the truth and we're going to help people to see the light of Christ. The enemy's going to do everything they can to stop us. And so how, you know, dealing with that heaviness, but also having real life experiences on the other side, the heaviness of life in general, not just the heaviness of ministry. Now you're scrambling, like you find yourself scrambling. Like I often found myself not saying things to certain people, or even just stepping back from certain people, because I feel like I don't know if I could trust, you know, you being me. Like I'm, you know, if I'm just allowing to be myself, you know. Now I thank God that He's blessed me with a few people that I can be able to talk to, but the heaviness is real, and if it's not directed, if it's not progressed in the right moment, it will come out to where we'll do it at the wrong moments. You know, in relationship situations, in public situations, it comes out on the wrong people because we don't know how to aim it, or we don't know how to deal with it and make steps from it, you know.
And you saying that, it just came to my mind because that's the same situation we see. And I know I said I wasn't going to talk about Will Smith, but I see that with a lot of men in power as well. Like I see that Will Smith, Kanye West, you know, we even see it with Tyrese. We seen a lot of the crying faces, and then they get put up on social media. Everybody like, ha ha ha, why they crying? You know what I'm saying? So as a man, as a black man, you like, no, I'm not going to be nobody's mean. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be a mean. But the thing is, what about? And so I say this because I'm pretty sure there's going to be believers that are listening to this, but there's going to be some non-believers listening to this as well. And so what if you're not a pastor? What if you're not a preacher? What if you just somebody, you know, you could be working at Popeyes right now, like literally nothing wrong with that. Whatever you got to do to put food on your family table, do what you got to do. You can cry too. I'm not just saying you got to have a heaviness. You got to be in a position of power to cry. You don't know the struggle of life that you're going through. When you're a kid, it makes so much sense that your mom and dad will say to you, don't rush to grow up. Don't rush to get big, because you don't even know what's out there. You're like and I used to think like, Mom, Dad, y'all just trying to keep me from something.
Yeah.
But they really were trying to keep me from a lot that I wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
Like, my dad would say this, like when my mom and dad would have a disagreement, he would tell me, you're my son, you're not my husband. And me and your mom, we will handle our business because that's my wife. Yeah. But what he was trying to do is put me back in my place to understand that one day, son, you will be in this same position. And you will see now that it's a difference. And so what I'm saying to people that are believers or non-believers, you don't have to just be in a position of power. Whatever it is, life will be heavy within itself. It's okay to handle your emotions in the correct manner, because my fear is that a lot of people take those same emotions and they are the people that we see on the Channel 30, shot up a Walmart, or robbing people, or taking from somebody, and then we quick to say, but they were just such a good person, so how did they get here? Well, the truth is, whatever was stirring within them had already started, because nobody said, hey, come here, let's cry. And a lot of times we will say that we don't see the person going through the trauma and the trauma taking place with them. But the truth and the reality of the story is that if you know the signs, you see the signs. Like, I can see if my brother is a little bit different from me, what he was one day to the next day. You just choose not to notice. Wow. And sometimes we choose not to notice our own personal struggles as well.
Yeah, that's good. Man, something that I learned though, just being like going back to the heaviness in ministry, and even people who might not be in ministry and all that. I had to learn to know who my source is. And so some of my friends told me, he said, read Psalms. He said, read how David talked to God. And David went and talked to God, man. I read it today, David was telling God, man, kill my enemies, kill my friends, kill everybody. I said, all right, but and that's just, when you make God your source, he really is, he really will bring you out of it. Man, it was probably 3 weeks ago. It was for a week straight. I just kept hearing voices in my head, man, you finna die, you real sick, you this and that, just kept saying crazy, just hearing crazy stuff. And so I was in my cousin's house. We was about to play 2K. And I was just sitting there just chilling, man. And then everything just got bright. I just woke up. And I can't credit that to nothing or nobody but God. I know that it was God who brought me out of it, just like he did when I first got in the ministry. I was depressed. I was coming out of a relationship and all that. And God just started speaking to me. And so when we make God our source, man, he'll do it. He'll bring you out, man.
Man, you can't make this up, Nadia. Look at this. Look where I'm at. Psalm 56. You can't make this up.
And he pulled it up a little while ago. I've been watching. He pulled it up.
You can't make this up because the text came to the text I was studying earlier. It said, you yourself have recorded my wanderings, put my tears in your bottle. Are they not in your book? Then my enemies will retreat on the day when I call. This I know. This is the part that blessed me. If you Baptist, you got to know there's parts where you got to shout. And this is the shout. It said, this I know, God is for me. Yeah. What you just said is God is for me, my source. Yeah. And I think that's true. Knowing who our source is, but trusting the resources he's put around us. Yeah. So now I guess is, Nadia, I'm going to ask you a question. And then you can throw it back. Okay. Check this out. How do we trust the resource? How do we know if the resources are from the source?
Wow. One thing that I think struggle with myself is finding godly relationships, and not just relationships, male but female community, right? And over time, I have built friendships. I've had the same friends since I was 14, 15 years old. And as we gotten older, relationships change. And I had a really hard time with recognizing that it was time for something to shift. And in my mind, I was like, the devil is attacking my friendships. He tried to take my friends away from me. And what I realized is that God was opening the door for other people to come in and be a resource for me. And it was easier for me to identify them because they matched what I was going through in that moment. And it was like what God wanted to highlight in my life. He gave me somebody. Gabby is actually that person. And y'all, if y'all watched before, she's been on here before. Gabby and I have known each other since we were 10 years old. And we just recently got back close together. The reason why I know she's a resource for me is because I have been asking the Lord for somebody to help me in my emotions. Because like he said, I don't cry. It's not that I have a lack of water, you know, but I have a hard time expressing emotions. And as a female, I can say I have a hard time expressing emotions. As a minister, I have a hard time expressing my emotions. It's not that I don't feel them, but I have a hard time expressing it. Gabby cries all the time. Literally, I tweeted the other day, Gabby, absolutely nobody, Gabby, this is why I cried. She cries, and I know you're watching and I love you. You're going to be on the after talk afterwards. But I asked the Lord to bring me somebody to help me with that area of my life. So when it comes to identifying resources, your prayers, for one, have to be intentional about your community. You have to be able to say, Lord, first of all, show me in me what it is that you want to refine, what you want to sharpen, what you want to expose. Now show me the people who are going to expose that in me. Now show me the people who are going to help refine this in me. Because there are going to be two sets of people. They're going to be the people who dig up the dirt, and then they're going to be the people who water on top of it. So it's multi-layered to the seeking of the relationship, to know that when they do start to change, it might not be because, oh, the devil is attacking everybody around me. It may just be time for you to grow and for the fallow ground to be dug up. And here comes another resource, because he is everything, but the increase that he brings, the water that he brings, the growth that he brings. Okay, and then we might go through another life cycle. So I love that Markel brought up his friends that he has, that he's able to reach out to and talk to. And Floyd, when I first met you, you brought up your brothers that you talk to, and y'all check in and go like, where you at? Scale, you know, I'm able to talk about this. I think it's a beautiful thing that you guys have been able to identify. But for people who are watching at home, and y'all can touch on it a little bit more, for people who are watching at home, I want to encourage you guys, especially males, and this is coming from a therapist and also from a woman, that when you start to notice changes in your relationships, or if you've never been good at building relationships with other men, not just women, with other men that you may not have been able to trust, because in the Black community, sometimes it's hard to trust the people that you look like.
Yes.
I totally get it. If you found it difficult to be able to do that, begin to ask the Lord to show you what it is in you that he wants to pull out. And when they start to pop up to pull those bad habits out, oh, I don't know how to communicate. Now I got somebody who talked to me in circles. Or I don't know how to, manage my emotions like he said. Now I have somebody who picks at me. And they're not doing it to attack me, but it's, oh, the Lord is showing me. Okay, now I got a resource. I have my source who's saying, okay, this is what it is I need you to do. Yeah. Now let me give you a resource to water, on top of that thing. That's my thought about it, because it's something I've experienced in my own life.
Yeah, and I want to go back off of all of what y'all said too. We're living in a time now specifically where people post so many different things as it concerns relationships and friendships, and people post things not necessarily of what they have, but they post things of things that they may appear to be.
Yeah.
And so they're posting things, and now everybody has this clouded view of what a friend should really be like. Now, not even just in the world, but just let's talk about in the faith. There's this clouded view of what you feel like you should have, and then what media says you should have by this time, and what you actually do have. Yeah. And sometimes the tension there is you're scrambling for what you believe that you should have because of what you see. Yeah. And not focusing on what you do have. And then that's where the tension is when it comes to figuring out friends and relationships and wherever, partnerships and those aspects, because you don't really know what you need. Because you haven't even sat with yourself, because you're reading everybody's opinion, and you want to appear to be like something on social media, but you're actually killing yourself because you're not actually being yourself. And so I want to encourage people like to step back and really discover who you actually are instead of who you appear, who you want the world to see you as on media. And who your friends, right? I get it, right? I get the clout. I get it. You want your life to, you know, appear to be something. I get it. But I really want you to take a step back and discover, you know, who are you? Who are you? Like, who do you need? What do you need? Don't let these celebrities tell you, because they got money, right? They got the money, and money can get you a lot of things, even no matter who you are.
Yeah.
But I ain't saying you ain't got no money, but we ain't no celebrity.
We ain't just calling
And
you
I
broke.
pray you have a lot of money, but really understand that fame and fortune is one thing. That's a whole other thing. But who you truly are, you need to discover that and move accordingly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's good. I agree with what you said, man. A lot of it is fake. I always talk about how we see these little dance challenges and stuff on TikTok and all that, where somebody dancing and then the other person will walk away and then they'll turn around and act surprised. Man, now you done seen 1,000 people do this, so you don't know this person will walk away from you.
Right.
But like you said, man, it's all fake. And so I had to take that time to just sit with myself, and I do it all the time, man. I just, man, sometimes after work, I just go home and just lay there and just man, listen to what God's saying to me. And in doing it, it's helped me become more comfortable with myself. Like before we started, he said, man, breathe. And that's just who I am, man. I'm just laid back, man. I just be chilling. And one thing that you said, find somebody that pick at you. And I think there's, for me, that's my pastor. He's become a father figure to me. And I think that's why fathers are something that's important for us too.
Man.
My pastor, every time my pastor see me, it's always something. Like it's always, okay, Marquez, you need to work on this. Marquez, you need to work on that. And I always go to him because I know he gonna tell me the truth. Like no matter how I feel, no matter what I think, he always gonna tell me the truth. So I think that's very important to have people around you like this. So,
The accountability. That's it. I think in everything, what you all have said, it comes to me to this. The part of the crying is only the idea that that's how you express those emotions. But when you're comfortable with yourself, expressing those emotions, you understand that I gotta process them. See, it's funny that sometimes if we overlook it too much, we don't get that opportunity to sit with it.
Yeah.
It's some feelings that's gonna come up in you that are not of God, and there's gonna be some feelings that's gonna come in you that are from the Spirit. You gotta sit in that thing and know how to wrestle with it in the right manner. You said something in Bible class. You was talking about that flesh and that spirit wrestling with each other, because they're two different entities,
Separate.
but they're inside you, and they going at day at war
all the time.
And when you know who God wants you to be, instead of who others want you to be, because you want yourself to be somebody, people want you to be somebody, but God wants you to be somebody, because He's already planned your life out. But the truth is, when you can sit in that time of self-reflection and understand who God wants you to be, you can wrestle with that thing. So the emotion that come on you, you can quickly say, no, that's not a God. So I can push that to the side, because I promise you, I was having a conversation with my sister. Some people do not like to say that they're jealous. Now this part is what I've been studying. This is something that I've been studying. But God is a jealous God.
Yeah.
So there's an unhealthy jealous, and then there's a healthy jealous.
There's one that's productive, one that's not.
Exactly. And so, but there you go. But see, some people would process their feelings like, no, I ain't jealous. Knowing well in that situation you could be jealous. How do you wrestle with that emotion? The truth is, you got to identify the emotion. You got to identify where that emotion comes from. You got to sit and reflect on it and understand that, okay, God, this emotion is here. It's real. But how do I process it? And I think it brings me back to when we don't process it and we don't sit in it and we overlook it, it comes back.
Yeah.
It don't just go away. And I think that's why some emotions are heavier than others, because we've overlooked it so much to the point it just gets heavier and heavier. Me, I know why my anxiety has become something that I wrestle with day to day. It's because it's some things that I should have handled long time ago. It's some people I should have addressed long time ago. It's some situation that I should have allowed myself to reflect through. It was some feelings that came up on me that I should have really processed, but I didn't. And so what I'm saying is, the reason why emotions seem to be something bad, when you emotional, they get like, you too emotional. No, brother, your emotions are real. You got to really wrestle with that thing. And that's my encouragement. Wrestle with it.
And I want to even I don't want to play, I ain't say I'm playing devil's advocate.
No, you can do
but
it.
Even right there, I agree with that. But I also want to say, and this comes from the Bible, I want to suggest that yes, if you don't deal with things and process things at day by day and take your time from whenever, it's going to come back. But I also want to point out that Jesus knew he was going to the cross. He knew from when he was sent down, right? And he knew his purpose. He knew his purpose when he was going to the cross. But even in the Garden of Gethsemane, he still cried.
Yes, he did.
He still wrestled. He still felt in that moment. And so I think, anxiety is real. But then even in certain moments, I think no matter how well you may be able to process it and you may walk in it, I think at certain points, it's going to smack you in the face too. And when it smacks you in the face, I think that's where you have to really, that's where you have to figure out right there. And Christ, he showed us that's a whole nother thing. But I just wanted to, I just wanted to help you, counter that, and even throw,
Hey, that's what we do at the end. We counter it, because that's the point of these conversations, because we're different people from different backgrounds, and we are all in this place talking about how do we lean on the source to wrestle, to get through those emotions. And Nadia, I want to ask one more question, because I feel like we're about to get to the wrap-up stage. As a woman, how do you feel about seeing men cry? Like, what is your take on it? Do it make them look weak, or can you help some brothers out? Can you help some sisters out tonight that say, hey, because there might be a brother that's been wanting to cry in front of his woman for a long time, but he didn't. Tonight, free that brother. Free that brother right now.
I think it's beautiful. My daddy cried. My daddy cried a lot. My daddy was a cry baby. Rest in peace to my father, but he cried all the time. So it wasn't uncommon for me to see men cry. It wasn't until I got around other black boys and men that I found out it wasn't a thing. I was working at an elementary school, and I had a student in 5th grade, and he got into a fight with somebody, and they hit him dead in his chest. He wanted to cry so bad. And I took him behind the school, and I hugged him, and I told him to cry. And it took him like 2 minutes. He was, and before I knew, he was bawling. And he just needed a moment away from everybody else to just cry. 10 years old, probably the first time he'd ever done it before. And when I see men cry, not just black men, but men cry in general, honestly, it reminds me of just how natural emotions are.
That's good.
When I look at my nephews and I see them cry, I think to myself, they're babies, they're supposed to cry. One of the reasons why I think the word deserve is so fitting here is because it's already in you to do it. It has to come out.
That's good.
It's a natural emotion. It's not something foreign to you. It's not something foreign to black people. It's not something foreign to people of color. It's not something foreign to anybody. You were born doing it. Which means you're going to be doing it for the rest of your life. You deserve to do it because it was already planted in you. So if you're at home, listen, go watch This Is Us. So go watch a video of a dog coming home to their war veteran. Watch something to spark some tears. Watch the Will Smith clip of him hugging Uncle Phil. Whatever it is that you need to watch. And then you feel that feeling. If you can't even cry, but just say to yourself, this is natural. I'm supposed to feel this, until it becomes a norm. Then maybe you'll shed a thug tear. You'll share just one. But just acknowledging the feeling in itself, I think it's a beautiful thing, and it reminds us of the connectivity we have to God. It really does. It teaches us to be soft. It teaches us to be gentle. It teaches us long suffering. It teaches us gentleness. It teaches us the fruits of the Spirit to be connected to God. And I think crying is another way that we are connected to our Father. So if you don't have an earthly father, it's a way that you can be connected to your heavenly Father. So.
I appreciate it.
Go take it.
All right, so here we go, guys.
Yes, sir.
You know how we do it here. It's not over. We going to the after party. 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We'll be in the after party. Come kick it with us. Bring questions. Please bring questions. We want to go more in details. Talk about, hey, girlfriends, tell your boyfriends, tell your girlfriends, come on to the after party. We want to keep this conversation going because, like she said, you deserve it.
Yes, you do.
All y'all deserve it. We'll see y'all there. And as we always say at Think Tank, be safe and protect yourself.